The first American supply depot that Obergefreiter Fritz Hoffmann witnessed at Camp McCain, Mississippi, in August 1943, stretched across the horizon like an endless warehouse of abundance that seemed to mock every assumption about wartime scarcity and resource management. The captured Wehrmacht soldier, who had survived on black bread and ersatz coffee for months, stared in disbelief at mountains of food, countless trucks, and aircraft that exceeded Germany's total military inventory. "This cannot be real," Hoffmann whispered to his fellow prisoner, Feldwebel Klaus Weber, as they observed American guards distributing fresh meat, dairy products, and vegetables with casual abundance, while aircraft flew overhead in formations that darkened the sky. "Where does all this come from?" "We were told Americans were starving and could barely equip their own forces." These were battle-hardened German soldiers who had experienced severe rationing, equipment shortages, and systematic resource conservation that characterized Wehrmacht operations throughout the war. The concept of military abundance during wartime seemed to violate every assumption about economics, logistics, and the fundamental nature of modern warfare they had ever learned. They had no way of knowing they were witnessing the greatest industrial mobilization in human history, or that American production capabilities would fundamentally overwhelm Axis resistance through systematic abundance in food, transportation, and aviation that rendered tactical excellence strategically irrelevant. If you want to discover more incredible stories of how American industrial supremacy changed the course of World War II, make sure to subscribe to our channel and hit that notification bell. Obergefreiter Fritz Hoffmann arrived at Camp McCain, carrying personal experience of systematic scarcity that had characterized German military service since 1941, when Wehrmacht logistics began showing strain from extended campaigns and Allied economic pressure. The 26-year-old infantry veteran had survived on reduced rations, ersatz substitutes, and improvised equipment that reflected Germany's increasingly desperate resource situation. The German military supply system that Hoffmann understood included careful rationing, systematic conservation, and efficient utilization of limited resources through disciplined allocation and waste prevention. Wehrmacht logistics emphasized making the most of available materials while maintaining combat effectiveness despite chronic shortages that worsened throughout the war. Food rationing that German soldiers experienced included black bread mixed with sawdust, ersatz coffee made from acorns, and margarine manufactured from coal derivatives that provided minimum nutrition necessary for military operations. German agricultural production could not support both civilian populations and military requirements under wartime conditions. Equipment shortages that plagued German forces included ammunition rationing, fuel restrictions, and vehicle maintenance challenges that limited operational tempo while forcing tactical adaptations based on resource constraints. German commanders learned to plan operations around supply limitations rather than strategic objectives. The economic foundation of German scarcity reflected geographic isolation, Allied blockade effects, and industrial capacity diverted between civilian needs and military requirements. German planners faced mathematical impossibility of supporting global military operations with limited domestic resources and restricted international trade. Psychological preparation for resource limitations included Wehrmacht training that emphasized efficiency, conservation, and systematic utilization of available materials through individual responsibility and collective discipline. German soldiers learned to view waste as treason while treating scarce supplies with careful attention. Strategic doctrine that incorporated resource constraints included tactical planning that minimized ammunition consumption, fuel usage, and equipment wear through efficient operations and systematic maintenance. German military excellence developed partially from necessity to achieve maximum effectiveness with limited resources. Cultural attitudes toward scarcity included acceptance of hardship as temporary sacrifice necessary for ultimate victory, with systematic propaganda emphasizing German moral superiority over materialistic enemies who allegedly depended on abundance rather than spiritual strength. Scarcity became ideological virtue rather than economic limitation. International comparisons that German intelligence provided suggested Allied forces faced similar resource constraints that would limit operational capabilities and strategic endurance. German analysis assumed enemy scarcity would create tactical vulnerabilities that systematic German efficiency could exploit through superior resource utilization. Medical challenges from inadequate nutrition included vitamin deficiency diseases, reduced physical performance, and weakened immune systems that affected combat capability while consuming scarce medical resources. German military medicine adapted to systematic nutritional limitations through modified training and reduced physical standards. The technological implications of resource scarcity included simplified equipment design, reduced performance specifications, and maintenance procedures adapted for limited spare parts availability. German engineering excellence developed through necessity to create effective weapons despite material constraints. Supply chain vulnerabilities that German forces experienced included dependency on occupied territories, synthetic material production, and systematic recycling that created operational limitations while requiring tactical adaptation to resource availability rather than strategic requirements. The scarcity experience had created German expectations about enemy limitations and resource constraints that would be systematically challenged by American abundance that exceeded any European calculation of wartime production possibility or democratic resource allocation. August 15, 1943. The first American mess hall that Fritz Hoffmann entered at Camp McCain presented scenes of abundance that challenged every assumption about wartime economics and resource allocation. Fresh beef, dairy products, vegetables, and desserts were served in portions that exceeded German officer rations during peacetime, while American guards treated this abundance as routine military provision. The food quality that German prisoners encountered included fresh meat, real coffee, white bread, and dairy products that had disappeared from German military rations years earlier. American agricultural abundance provided nutrition that exceeded German civilian standards while maintaining military effectiveness that contradicted Nazi predictions about democratic resource limitations. Transportation resources visible at Camp McCain included hundreds of trucks, jeeps, and specialized vehicles that exceeded German motor vehicle inventory for entire army groups. American automotive abundance demonstrated industrial capabilities that challenged fundamental German assumptions about wartime production limits and resource allocation priorities. Aviation activity over the camp included constant aircraft movements that suggested American aviation resources exceeding total German aircraft production. Training flights, transport operations, and routine missions demonstrated air power abundance that contradicted German calculations about Allied aviation capabilities and strategic limitations. The infrastructure supporting American abundance included warehouses, maintenance facilities, and distribution networks that operated with systematic efficiency despite resource levels that seemed impossible according to German economic understanding. Logistical organization exceeded European capabilities through democratic industrial coordination. Personnel allocation that supported abundant operations included specialized workers, technical experts, and administrative staff whose numbers suggested human resource availability that exceeded German military organization. American manpower abundance contradicted Nazi assumptions about democratic military efficiency and workforce utilization. Equipment maintenance that American abundance enabled included replacement parts availability, systematic repair procedures, and preventive maintenance that exceeded German capabilities despite resource constraints. Material surplus enabled operational effectiveness that German forces achieved only through exceptional individual effort. Medical care that German prisoners received included abundant supplies, specialized equipment, and comprehensive health care that exceeded German military medical standards. American medical abundance demonstrated resource allocation priorities that emphasized human welfare rather than material conservation. The casual attitude that American personnel demonstrated toward abundant resources included systematic waste of materials that Germans would have considered precious, suggesting surplus production that exceeded immediate consumption requirements. American abundance challenged German concepts about wartime resource management. Educational programs available at the camp included books, materials, and instruction that required resource allocation exceeding German educational standards during wartime conditions. American intellectual abundance demonstrated systematic investment in prisoner development rather than minimal custodial care. Recreation facilities that American abundance provided included sports equipment, entertainment materials, and organized activities that required resource dedication exceeding German military recreation standards. Leisure abundance reflected priorities that emphasized human welfare rather than strategic necessity. The psychological impact on German prisoners included cognitive dissonance between observed American abundance and Nazi propaganda about democratic resource limitations. Reality consistently contradicted ideological assumptions about enemy weaknesses and strategic vulnerabilities. Work programs that demonstrated American abundance included tool availability, material supplies, and equipment access that enabled productive activities exceeding German workshop capabilities. Industrial abundance supported prisoner employment while demonstrating systematic resource availability. The shock of abundance was creating fundamental challenges to German worldview about democratic society, wartime economics, and industrial capabilities that exceeded every calculation of resource possibility. October 1943. German prisoners working in American agricultural programs and support facilities gained direct exposure to industrial systems that demonstrated production capabilities exceeding their most optimistic estimates about democratic resource potential. The systematic abundance they observed included not just end products, but production methods that challenged fundamental assumptions about wartime economics. The agricultural abundance that prisoners witnessed included mechanized farming operations using equipment that exceeded German agricultural technology while producing food quantities that seemed impossible according to European farming experience. American agricultural productivity contradicted German assumptions about democratic efficiency and systematic organization. Manufacturing facilities that prisoners observed included production lines operating with systematic efficiency that exceeded German industrial capabilities while producing consumer goods and military equipment simultaneously. American industrial organization achieved dual production that German planners considered impossible under wartime conditions. Transportation networks supporting American abundance included railroad systems, trucking operations, and distribution facilities that moved materials across continental distances with efficiency exceeding European logistics capabilities. American transportation infrastructure demonstrated systematic coordination that exceeded authoritarian organizational methods. The workforce diversity supporting American production included women, minorities, and civilian workers whose technical competence challenged German assumptions about democratic social organization and human resource utilization. Systematic inclusion enhanced rather than compromised industrial effectiveness through competitive merit-based employment. Technology integration throughout American production included automated equipment, systematic quality control, and scientific management that achieved efficiency exceeding traditional craftsmanship methods. Democratic industrial organization had achieved technological advantages through competitive innovation rather than authoritarian control. Resource allocation that American abundance demonstrated included material surplus that enabled generous prisoner treatment while maintaining military operations, civilian production, and international assistance. Systematic plenty eliminated traditional wartime constraints through democratic resource management and competitive efficiency. Innovation acceleration that American industry achieved included continuous improvement in production methods, product design, and operational efficiency that exceeded traditional development cycles. Competitive pressure encouraged technological advancement while maintaining systematic production schedules. Quality control procedures that maintained American abundance included statistical sampling, systematic testing, and continuous monitoring that ensured consistent performance across massive production volumes. Scientific methods achieved reliability through systematic approaches rather than individual craftsmanship attention. The economic implications of observed abundance included cost advantages that decreased as production volumes increased, demonstrating economies of scale that traditional manufacturing could never achieve through individual attention or limited production runs. Democratic capitalism had solved cost-effectiveness challenges. Supply chain resilience that American abundance demonstrated included redundant sourcing, alternative transportation, and strategic stockpiling that maintained production despite wartime disruptions. Systematic organization exceeded German logistics through competitive coordination and democratic resource allocation. International cooperation that American abundance enabled included generous assistance to allied nations while maintaining domestic abundance that indicated surplus capacity beyond immediate military requirements. Democratic values had created sustainable assistance programs through systematic generosity. Training programs that supported abundant production included systematic instruction that created skilled workers through competitive education while maintaining industrial expansion. Human resource development paralleled material abundance through democratic educational systems. The maintenance infrastructure supporting American abundance included repair capabilities, replacement parts availability, and technical services that sustained operational effectiveness under global deployment conditions. Systematic logistics had created sustainability advantages through competitive organization and democratic efficiency. The Industrial Revolution was demonstrating American capabilities that exceeded German understanding while challenging fundamental assumptions about democratic society and wartime resource allocation through observable evidence of systematic abundance. December 1943. Intelligence reports from German prisoners returning through exchange programs documented American resource abundance that Wehrmacht analysts initially dismissed as propaganda before multiple independent sources confirmed mathematical impossibilities that challenged every assumption about wartime production and democratic industrial organization. Fritz Hoffmann's detailed observations provided German intelligence with systematic documentation of American abundance that included precise counts of vehicles, aircraft, and supply quantities that exceeded German total military inventory. Personal testimony from trusted military personnel could not be dismissed as Allied disinformation, despite contradicting fundamental German assumptions. The statistical analysis that German economic planners performed revealed American production figures that violated traditional assumptions about wartime resource allocation and industrial capacity. Enemy abundance indicated systematic advantages in manufacturing that challenged German understanding of democratic society organization and economic efficiency. Supply chain documentation that prisoner reports provided included evidence of American logistical networks that coordinated continental production with efficiency exceeding German organizational capabilities. Democratic industrial coordination had achieved systematic advantages through competitive cooperation rather than authoritarian control. Economic calculations performed by German analysts demonstrated American resource expenditure that exceeded German military budgets while maintaining civilian production and international assistance simultaneously. Democratic capitalism had achieved resource abundance that commanded economy methods could never duplicate through systematic efficiency. Technology assessment based on prisoner observations revealed American manufacturing capabilities that combined quantity with quality through systematic methods that exceeded traditional European approaches, emphasizing individual craftsmanship. Mass production had achieved reliability through scientific rather than artistic approaches. The workforce analysis that German intelligence conducted revealed American human resource utilization that exceeded German capabilities through inclusive employment and competitive education. Democratic society had mobilized population capabilities that authoritarian systems could never achieve through coercive methods. Strategic implications of confirmed American abundance included recognition that German resource limitations created systematic disadvantages that tactical excellence could not overcome against enemies with unlimited material availability. Quality advantages had become irrelevant against systematic quantity combined with adequate performance. Innovation assessment revealed American technological development that accelerated through competitive pressure while maintaining production schedules that traditional methods could never achieve. Democratic innovation had exceeded German development through systematic research and competitive advancement. International cooperation evidence included American assistance to allied nations that demonstrated surplus capacity beyond domestic requirements while maintaining military effectiveness that exceeded German strategic planning assumptions. Democratic abundance enabled systematic generosity that strengthened coalition warfare. The psychological impact on German leadership included recognition that fundamental assumptions about democratic weakness and resource limitations had proven systematically incorrect. Reality contradicted ideology through mathematical evidence that could not be dismissed or explained through traditional German economic theory. Quality control evidence revealed American manufacturing that maintained performance standards while achieving production volumes that German industry considered impossible without sacrificing reliability. Scientific manufacturing had solved quality challenges through systematic approaches. Resource management documentation showed American abundance included strategic stockpiling that provided insurance against supply disruption while maintaining operational effectiveness under global deployment conditions. Systematic planning had created sustainability advantages through competitive organization. The mathematical impossibility had become strategic reality that forced German recognition of democratic advantages in industrial organization, resource allocation, and technological development that exceeded authoritarian alternatives through competitive efficiency and systematic abundance that challenged every fundamental assumption about wartime economics. May 8, 1945. As Nazi Germany surrendered unconditionally, Fritz Hoffmann understood that American abundance in food, trucks, and planes had represented more than material advantages. It had demonstrated systematic superiority of democratic industrial organization that had overwhelmed German tactical excellence through sheer plenty that rendered scarcity-based strategies completely obsolete. The final accounting of American wartime production revealed numbers that staggered even Allied commanders: 2.6 million trucks and jeeps, 325,000 aircraft, and agricultural output that fed not only American forces but Allied armies worldwide, while maintaining civilian abundance that exceeded peacetime standards. Democratic efficiency had achieved impossible abundance through systematic organization. The strategic validation that American abundance provided confirmed industrial mobilization as decisive factor in modern warfare, while demonstrating democratic advantages in resource allocation, technological development, and human organization that exceeded authoritarian alternatives through competitive innovation and inclusive participation rather than coercive control. Economic efficiency that American production achieved included cost reduction through volume manufacturing, while maintaining quality standards that exceeded traditional methods emphasizing individual craftsmanship. Competitive capitalism had proven superior to command economy organization for systematic resource allocation and technological advancement. International cooperation that American abundance enabled included generous assistance to allied nations through Lend-Lease programs that strengthened coalition warfare while demonstrating surplus capacity that exceeded domestic requirements. Democratic values had created sustainable partnerships through systematic generosity rather than exploitative relationships. The educational systems that produced American industrial workers created human capital advantages through competitive academic development that exceeded traditional apprenticeship methods. Democratic education had produced technological capabilities through systematic knowledge development and merit-based advancement. Technological legacy of American wartime production influenced post-war development through manufacturing techniques, quality control methods, and organizational innovations that revolutionized global industry. Scientific advancement had created lasting advantages through systematic research and competitive development. Quality control achievements in mass production demonstrated American manufacturing capabilities that maintained performance standards while enabling systematic abundance that traditional methods could never achieve through individual attention. Scientific manufacturing had produced excellence through systematic quality assurance. The workforce development that enabled American success demonstrated democratic society's ability to mobilize human resources through opportunity and education rather than coercion. Competitive systems had produced capabilities that exceeded authoritarian alternatives through systematic human development and inclusive participation. Strategic implications of American abundance included post-war economic leadership that would influence global development through technological advantages established during wartime production. Democratic industrial power had achieved systematic superiority that would shape international relationships for decades. Innovation acceleration that wartime production represented established American industry as global leader in manufacturing through competitive research and systematic development that exceeded traditional methods. Democratic innovation had created sustainable advantages through competitive advancement. Supply chain resilience that American production demonstrated included resource coordination and logistical management that maintained abundance despite global commitments and wartime disruptions. Systematic organization had achieved efficiency that exceeded traditional industrial methods through competitive cooperation. The psychological transformation that American abundance created among German prisoners included recognition that democratic society could achieve systematic advantages through inclusive participation and competitive innovation. Personal experience had challenged ideological assumptions through undeniable evidence of democratic superiority. The abundance that won the war had demonstrated that democratic values, competitive innovation, and systematic organization could achieve material plenty that exceeded authoritarian efficiency while maintaining human dignity and international cooperation that would influence post-war reconstruction toward inclusive prosperity rather than scarcity-based control. If this incredible story of how American abundance overwhelmed German scarcity and demonstrated democratic superiority amazed you, make sure to subscribe to our channel for more untold tales of industrial victory over ideology.